Hi, everybody. My name is Julio Tirado. I'm the Director of Internal Audit Spirit Bank. And to my right, we have
Pedro Serrano. I am the Chief Information Security Officer at GRDA, also the ISSA President here in Oklahoma.
JiuJitsu. So here are the principles that we're going to lean on. The first one is considered a position before submission. This is one of my favorite jiu-jitsu principles because they're so powerful and it's easy to take for granted after a while. But position before submission, it's really critical to achieve and maintain a dominant position. That's really the key word, dominance, prior to deploying a submission. And in jiu-jitsu, submission involves not typically striking, punching, and kicking, but is the chokes or the shoulder locks and arm locks. You hear about the arm bars and leg locks, things like that. So these are the kind of submissions, but a jiu-jitsu practitioner has to understand the conditions, the techniques, the circumstances that collectively make sense to have a dominant position before we strike, before we submit our opponent. Otherwise, we'll be more likely to fail and not get what we want. That's really all to it. So how do we apply position before submission to real world problems? And I know you're gonna start with a special, really relevant case.
Yes, so we all know COVID-19 hit and what happens? Here we go, go, right? We have to do several things. So let me show you the scenario and let me sort of present what we're gonna talk about for the next few minutes. So the technology department had to quickly adapt to the pandemic by helping as many employees as possible to work remotely. I think we can all identify with that, right? Due to the high demand for laptops, only 1/3 of the employees were able to work remotely. I know that rings a bell, right? The technical department, already overwhelmed with work prior to the pandemic, had to rush to adapt and did not have the time to consider the needed controls for home environment. On top of that, plenty of users are working at home remotely for the first time. Yikes. We can all see problems here right now, right? So all of a sudden, we have smart speakers, gaming consoles, smart TVs, printers of their own. None of those have been set up. None of those have been vetted by either audit or security.
That's a problem.
Yes. Also, Internal Audit Department had it on their schedule to perform an IT audit around the same time of the pandemic was declared. Everyone is dealing with stress and covering some new ground. So that's a huge setup. And that's real valid because now all of a sudden it's like, what are we gonna do, right? So from the security perspective, here's my problems.
Bring it on.
Because really this is how it is in real life. Auditor, security. Hey, you know, my team doesn't have slack time. I need to focus on whatever my new normal is. And my new normal is I gotta work with my emergency. I don't have time for your audit.
But auditors gotta audit.
Well, I hear you, but
Come on, Pedro.
I have a remote workforce, and I just had to take some of my controls and sort of put them on low and give people access, even if they had to use their personal computers, because I was under the gun to give them access. How do I handle this? How do I get into this problem? But not only that, now all of a sudden, and this is kind of important to many of you, I'm getting a lot of heat from the auditors because all he keeps telling me is, dude, I need to do an audit. Dude, you are letting your guards down. Dude, you know, things are not working the way we're supposed to do.
I don't want to go slow.
And I'm like, I don't care. Here's my new normal. So how do we handle this from your perspective now?
That's a good question. So there's a couple of things that we have to keep in mind. And first of all, I get the pressure. I feel the pressure. And here we are, we're in jiu-jitsu gear. We get excited, we want to swing each other a little bit, hopefully not. But one of the challenges that we both face is that we both have jobs to do.
Correct.
You get pressure from one side of the house, I get pressure from the other side of the house. So how do we solve the problems that we need to solve or get to the same destination in a different way? So specifically as it relates to the issue you're having.
Correct.
Right, that you need to go, deploy a remote workforce, you got to get stuff out there. You didn't have time to think about all these control things, these risk management issues, right?
I did not look at any of my spreadsheets or any of my controls. I just issue laptops.
Yet here I am trying to tell you we got to do an audit, which we have to do. We're a compliant business. So a couple of things to think about. First of all, if we have a good relationship, Pedro, if we're able to have good communication, you and I, everybody out there, internal auditors, risk managers, security officers, technology professionals, if we have a good relationship, you may be able to leverage that because in the very beginning of all this stressful situation, we can actually work together. So for example, your two problems. The first one is go, I got to get everything out, right? You don't have the time. Is it possible you can lean on internal audit to come inside your domain and help you with a risk assessment, for example, to help you and work with you and identify, even as quick as you can, because I understand the pressure to have to deploy quickly, as quick as one can to talk about what can go wrong. What can we adopt from a controls perspective? We're talking user training, we're talking raising awareness, we're talking on the infrastructure side of the house, the VPN portal. What can we do? What are the controls we can adopt to get comfortable? So you're feeling a lot of pressure because you're being driven by operational issues and security issues and just having to deploy things. I don't have the pressure from the operational perspective. Could I come in and try to help in a consultative way, talk to you about what can we do in advance?
Maybe I could have used
Not after the fact as an audit, but before you actually take action.
Maybe I could have used you to create a guide on how to use the computer. Maybe I could have used you on a guide on how to remote into our network.
Sure.
You know how to do that.
Well, that's absolutely an option. So one of the challenges we're going to face as an internal audit is we have to have this balance between objectivity and our opportunity to be in a consultative capacity. So here's what I mean. Here's the challenge. If I perform a process, if I'm responsible for some process, I cannot audit it for at least a year. That's an IA standards issue. So on my end, I have to weigh the pros and the cons of how I can achieve the organizational needs and still be the good auditor over the long run. But these are very special circumstances. So one of the challenges we're going to have to overcome is how to add value in a way that makes sense while still maintaining the rules and abiding by the objectivity requirements.
Could we go on back to the executive team, or could you go back to the executive team and say, hey, we are in an emergency situation, we need to delay our audit? Is that even a consideration?
That's a good point. So we absolutely need to be flexible as a rule, right? Just like IT audit, or just like IT or security feels pressure, we feel pressure too.
Okay.
We are supposed to, in our profession, audit to the speed of risk, which means we have to pivot. We have to align with what's going on, and we have to adjust to the circumstances. So yeah, we absolutely should be flexible as much as we can. This is where our relationship works well. If we have that communication, if we are honest with each other, then we can talk about your problem and my problem. I have to complete my audits. However, I obviously don't want to affect production. You need to deploy a remote workforce. So yeah, we should strive to be flexible. And at the same time, you're able to strive to be understanding
Perhaps
where we're coming from, right?
I should have invited you to the meetings that we had prior to our mobilization.
So you keeping me in the loop would have been helpful.
Yes.
Thank you, Pedro. I agree with you.
I could have invited you and avoid this issue.
Yeah.
Because now we're under the gun. You because of your audit, and me because I could have used an extra hand. Interesting. Something that when we looked at our principle, we really did not look at our position at all. We were just thinking about each separate problem by itself. Interesting. So what would be, if we were going to wrap this up in this particular scenario, what would be some of the things that we could capture by using our JiuJitsu principle?
Well, I think that the first element of this principle we can lean on is to prepare for the right conditions. I mentioned to you guys in the very beginning that for position before submission, we have to do our homework. We have to know what circumstances to set up in order to prepare to do the right submission. So in other words, preparation. So by you and I maintaining that relationship up front, by investing in building trust and communication early on before these things happen, we are preparing
You
for
were
these
not
things
even
to
a
happen.
thought in my mind during our meetings.
Because the only time we ever work with each other is when I audit you, right?
Yes.
And when you need something from me, which doesn't happen too often.
That is correct. That is correct.
So another piece of this, you guys, that we can lean on is having to adjust and to maintain that dominant position. Because in jiu-jitsu, you may develop the right set of circumstances to have a dominant position, but sometimes things happen. Sometimes your attempts will fail because your opponent will counter, right? So you have to adjust. You have to be flexible. So as it relates to audit, we absolutely need to be flexible. That's a very reasonable expectation for people in my position or in risk management. And I know you feel the same way from your side of the house. So being flexible and adjusting has to be part of it. And the last bit is attack. Attack, attack, attack. Go for the submission, right? Sounds awful and dangerous, but what I mean is to seize the opportunity. To seize the opportunity for us to collaborate. Because at the end of the day, I said in the beginning, auditors got to audit, hackers got to hack. I get it, right? Security engineers have to engineer. But we have to recognize that sometimes we are trying to, in the end, solve the same problem. We're just going at it from different directions sometimes. So let's seize the opportunity to collaborate, work together, and get to the same place.
Thank you. I think those are fantastic principles that we can truly apply today to any audit or security piece.